me, Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling, with the Platinum 9-Course WrestleFeast for the shows that took place from January 24th, 2020 to January 28th, 2020. 9 shows in all. We go in chronological order up in this piece, so we start with AEW Dark Elevation. How was the show? Let's wait and see. We do a number of comparisons. I'll tell you which show that I thought did the best, which show I thought was the least. And I'll also compare the two AEW Darks, Elevation and the regular Dark, to say which one I think is doing a better job overall. And then we'll cross-compare. We'll just talk about the shows in general, et cetera, et cetera. And if there's anything that I think you need to go out of your way to see, I will let you know. People said that that was one of their favorite features, was me just pointing out the 2 or 3 matches that I thought were can't misses. Other stuff, yeah, you can kind of miss it. That's why you're listening to this in the first place, right? So first match for Dark Elevation, we had Layla Hirsch against the debuting Brittany Blake. This is a foregone conclusion match. Layla Hirsch looked really good here. Heel persona kind of suits her fighting style more. And Hirsch winning with another impact move instead of a submission, I think is a good way to go. Private Party with Matt Hardy against Action Andrade, who I like a lot, and he's doing his second match, as well as Miles Hawkins. They do a good job keeping up with Private Party. Private Party will always give you a little something, but it's really about Private Party doing their thing. It is hard to accept them as heels as long as they do such spectacular wrestling stuff. I know that's kind of an old school way of thinking, but it's just hard to boo the guy that does the shooting star press for the victory. You feel me? Brandy Rhodes with an impressive 13-3 record. I'm not even kidding. Against Willow Nightingale. It's great to see Willow again, and they've been using her on the steady. And then Rhodes gets the submission win with the stretch mark. We get it. You just had a kid. Fourth match, Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky against Logan LaRue and Mike Flower. I believe that's the first time we're seeing Mike Flower here. Sky wins with the TKO. Page plants Fowler with the Ego's Edge. The guys do a pretty good job here. Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky are looking very, very, very sharp in a very bloated, not in a bad way, tag team division. Red Velvet continues to improve greatly, taking on Janai Kai, making her second appearance, I believe. Red Velvet wins here. Santana and Ortiz against 2 debuting people, Goldie and Bro Keller. Santana Ortiz, such consummate pros. Hopefully this angle with Eddie Kingston and a possible split from the Inner Circle is going to lead to us seeing them much more. We got Ruby Soho and Thunder Rosa against Jordan Blue, making her debut, and Leva Bates. Great to see Leva again. Big fan of hers. And she looks really good here. Sometimes Leva Bates' ring work isn't quite up to snuff, but here she basically helps her team out as much as she can. It's Blue who takes the fall to the Peruvian necktie. And Soho and Thunder Rosa look very strong. Ricky Starks and Will Hobbs against Matt Seidel and Lee Moriarty in our only competitive match, semi-competitive match of the day. Starks hits the spear for the win. Moriarty and Matt Seidel look pretty good here. So a show that is infinitely forgettable, which is the hallmark, unfortunately, of AEW Dark Elevation as of late. Just speaking truth here, folks. Just speaking truth. And then we got Raw. This Raw was horrible, terrible, awful, not good, not great, and not much of anything. They had a weigh-in for Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. And their managers talk trash. A weigh-in when there's no weight classes. Bianca Belair against Queen Zelina. So Bianca Belair wins. Okay. Damian Priest against Kevin Owens for the U.S. Championship. Priest gets disqualified because he won't give up kicking him. The match itself was very good until that really terrible finish that the WWE is just in love with. And they did it again in the Royal Rumble with Roman Reigns and Rhea Ripley, Dana Brooke, and Liv Morgan against Nikki Ash, Tamina, and Carmella in the let's get a bunch of people who are going to be in this Royal Rumble so we can convince you our star power is greater than it is. But Carmella taps out to the reverse clover leaf. And not all 6 of the people even got in the match. Jesus. Chad Gable, Randy Orton. The end of this match was pretty fantastic. This was a very good match, probably the best match on an otherwise dismal show. He counters the punt kick into an ankle lock, which was cool, but then Orton escapes and hits the RKO, also cool. This is some good pro wrestling. AJ Styles against Austin Theory, another really good match, which is tough because you have 2 great matches in a sea of just endless liquid shit. So it's tough, but it is what it is. Styles makes Theory look really good, which forebodes great things for both of them in the Royal Rumble. But now we know that that isn't true, that neither one of them really got anything to do, which makes this whole card even more worthless than it was. And it's not fair, perhaps, that I'm judging this Raw based on what I already know about the Royal Rumble. But I already know that all the stuff that they're setting up really doesn't mean anything. But it is what it is. Street Profits against the Mysterios. Ray wins with a victory roll. Okay. Happy birthday, Maurice. They have a segment here. Edge and Phoenix come out, and Miz and Maurice escape. What a piece of shite. AEW Dark on the Tuesday night. Let's see if it's better than Elevation. It is. The Bunny takes on Erica Lay. Bunny picks up a much-needed win with Down the Rabbit Hole. Daniel Garcia in 2.0 against Kekoa. Great to see him. Big fan of his. I see him at Pro Wrestling Action in Sanford, Florida. Pat Brink and Reo in a 6-man tag match. Garcia gets the win with a Scorpion Deathlock. No great shakes here. Joe Keys, who is the master at getting destroyed, gets destroyed by Lance Archer. Wins with the blackout and then hits him with a lariat afterwards because jerk. Layla Hirsch picks up another win, and they're really, and this time wins by submission. So we're really getting to see all facets of Layla Hirsch. The Acclaimed and the Gun Club against the Dark Order. In this case, Evil Uno, Alex Reynolds, Alan Angels, and Preston Vance in an 8-man tag match, which is more interesting than anything we saw on Dark Elevation, honestly. The Acclaimed and the Gun Club win, because the Gun Club gets the win on Alan Angels. Pentagon wants Yuta to shake his hand because we got Pentagon Jr. versus Wheeler Yuta. But Pentagon applies a wrist lock. So then we have a good back and forth. This is the best Wheeler Yuta has looked in AEW, in my opinion. At the end of the day, the package pile driver gets the win for Pentagon Jr., but he definitely raises Yuta Wheeler's stock in AEW with this match. Nick Komoroto against Jungle Boy. And Komoroto taps out to the snare trap. So a relatively short-ish episode of Dark, but we'll take it. And I will say that it was superior to AEW Dark Elevation as that weird trend continues. Then we go to Tuesday night, which is NXT Easy as 1, 2, 3. Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic first round jacket time against MSK. MSK wins as they should in a relatively long match for NXT, over 10 minutes, closer to 11. It's sad that you have to be excited about an 11-minute match. It is what it is. Zoe Stark tells Io Shirai she wants to find a new partner because her knee is not there. Okay. Video on Cameron Grimes wanting to beat Tony D'Angelo. Legado del Fantasma's in the ring with Santos Escobar mocking Braun Breaker. Why would you do that? I don't know. Video on Boa versus Solo Sikoa. And then we see Bolo versus Solo Sikoa. And Solo Sikoa wins with a Superfly Splash through the table. So they're giving us more things to watch live. If you're there for the live show, you're actually getting to see some stuff. Duke Hudson against Guru Raj. Duke Hudson wins in 1 minute and 8 seconds. Fun. Not really. Indy Hartwell and Persia and Katie Lee Ray against Toxic Attraction. And, of course, Indy Hartwell, Persia, and Kaylee Ray beat Toxic Attraction as the once Priscilla Kelly, now Gigi Dolan, firemen's carry Facebusters to set up a bunch of angles between those 6 ladies. So that part worked. Grizzled Young Veterans against Andre Chase and Bodie Hayward in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Grizzled Young Veterans win in 5 minutes here. I'm glad at NXT they're beginning to expand the length of the matches and giving us a little more wrestling here and there. Io Shirai against Tiffany Stratton, the incredible athlete who they've reduced to being the daddy's girl. Io Shirai beats her in 4 minutes. That's the sound of a push not happening. Malcolm Bivens thinks Gunther is a stupid name. Okay. Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams introduce Ollie J for a musical performance. Wow. Tony D'Angelo is ready for Cameron Grimes, and Tiffany Stratton is on the phone with her dad and complains about the referee. Runs into Wendy Chu, thinks the referee had a point. Stratton slaps her cups away. And Chu whines about needing a free refill. These are the jokes, folks. Cameron Grimes against Tony D'Angelo. Cameron Grimes wins with the cave-in about 11 minutes. And there you go. We go to Wednesday night, and that's Dynamite night. What a fantastic show. What a fantastic show. Orange Cassidy, Adam Cole end the night. We start with Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara in a ladder match. This is the first match out of all of these that you absolutely have to see. You have to watch that match. It was fantastic. Wardlow destroys Elijah Dean and James Alexander. Also a great segment. You would think that Dynamite was going to win the week the way it was going. However, Chris Jericho, Santana, and Ortiz against 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. A little dissension amongst Jericho comes in and kind of steals the win for his team, which doesn't sit well with them. MJF and CM Punk have a final showdown where MJF makes sure Punk is laid out and then says he will wrestle him next week in Chicago, that toddling town. Red Velvet against legit Layla Hirsch, who they've been given wins and wins and wins, and Layla Hirsch defeats Velvet. With a roll-up with a handful of tights, and then she attempts to hurt her further, but Chris Statlander makes the save. In a pre-taped video, Malachi Black and Brody King gives a warning to Pac in the Death Triangle. Britt Baker promo, probably the least effective one she's ever cut. That's the thing that held it together. And then Orange Cassidy and Adam Cole, a perfectly good match with a really strange finish, in my opinion. We go to Thursday, which means Impact Wrestling. Another good show from Impact. They continue to improve overall. Chris Bay against Jake Something. Jake Something won, which upset me because I love Chris Bay, but the match was definitely great. And then Jay White and the Gorillas of Destiny attack Something and Speedball Mike Bailey before the former two were overheard throwing a message loudly and clearly to the Good Brothers. So we're setting up angles as well, which I like a lot. Honor No More, the Ring of Honor people who are bad guys, show up, and they have a really good-looking segment here. Yell back and forth with Scott D'Amore. I really like this a lot. I like how they're booking this angle. It's interesting. It gives you a reason to watch from week to week, and you get to see progression and change, all for all of those storytelling elements. And D'Amore books Saban versus PCO for later in the night. Sounds good to me. The Influence, but in this case, Tennille Dashwood couldn't be there, so Caleb with a K takes her place, and then that isn't a story. He's just sort of inserted and treated as a regular women's wrestler, which is something, but there's no story. Like, spots affect him just as much, even though he's strong. It's just weird. It's just weird how they did it. But I will say the inspiration, the once iconics, are looking better and better in the ring. That was the one knock on them in the WWE, is they weren't very smooth in the ring, but they're getting to be much more confident and smooth, and it's great to see. And congratulations to them for turning down being in that horrible Royal Rumble. State of the Knockouts address, Mickie James speaks. Mickie James looked great on that Royal Rumble, by the way. Mickie James is talking. Chelsea Green interrupts. Tasha Steele does her thing. Whole bunch of brouhaha happens. So we're setting up a bunch of feuds and stuff, and I'm all about it. 8-on-1 handicap match. The Learning Tree against W. Morrissey. And he beats him up. He beats up Brian Myers, beats up Zicky Dice. Beats up Zicky Dice. And then VSK, and at the end of it, Brian Myers leaves the commentary position and tries to attack Morrissey, but he finds himself guzzled. But then Moose attacks, blasting him with the world title, leaving Morrissey lying. Okay. Johnny Swinger against Jonah. This is a foregone conclusion match. Jonah beats him handily. Dan Lambert from AEW is watching and reacting. Interesting. Chris Saban against PCO. PCO manages to win here with a Bubba Bomb, which is a big deal. Saban doesn't lose very often. And after the match, Edwards, Swan, Rhino, and Alexander reemerge from the back, chasing Honor No More, but not before the walking weapon applies the ankle lock to Vincent, sending a message to the no surrender opposition. So, good stuff here. As for New Japan, really the only match that they had, because again, these are all showing previous stuff in New Japan until the new shows start in March. But it's Naito against Kazuchika Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. If you've never seen the match before, that is my second match that I'm absolutely insisting that you go and watch. SmackDown happened. SmackDown was our worst show of the last week. It's our best show this week. Not for any match in particular. Raw had a couple matches that were superior, but the segments that opened and closed, and this is a go-home show for Royal Rumble, that's what you need, were both great. The Charlotte Flair, as much as she tends to make me cringe, that whole bit between her and Sasha Banks and a bunch of the other women was incredibly effective in the way that the 6-woman tag match on Raw was not. And then closing with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns really sent that home. And all the matches in between were serviceable and did what they needed to do. And the stuff between Naomi and Sonya Deville was effective in setting up what they did at Royal Rumble. And everything else, like I said, was good. But the opening and closing segments were phenomenal. And then finally, we got Rampage, which was a very good show, but a show of little consequence compared to what they've done lately, which is why it did not win the week. Jon Moxley against Anthony Bowens was really, really great, but again, of little consequence. Lee Johnson and Brock Anderson and FTR, a fantastic match, but it was a foregone conclusion. And it also had Arn hitting Tully, so we'll see if anything comes of that. Jade Cargill and Julia Hart surprising by pulling off a good match. The Julia Hart with an eye patch thing is gotten kind of dumb. Just letting you know about that. And then Jurassic Express against Private Party, a perfectly serviceably good match, but the Gun Club jumped Jurassic Express afterwards. And so, not a lot of consequence here. So, best show of the week, SmackDown. Worst one, Raw, in spite of having one of the matches that I insist that you watch, and another match that was incredibly good. The rest of it was shite.